everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Dream Big, Pray Hard, Never Quit video series. Today we have with us Coach Bill Edmundson, a Hall of Famer coach for wrestling at the national level. He has won several state championships here in Rosewood. The guy is a legend in the wrestling community, taught for 30 years. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
31 years as a teacher, has given himself to the community and to the kids most of his life. And he agreed to be here for this interview, and I cannot thank you enough. So welcome to Dream Big. Greatly appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, RJ. Really appreciate it. I know that you were in the wrestling community as well, and it was always good to have that friendly competition.
Oh, well, thank you. So today, I'm just going to kind of let you tell us why you got into wrestling, how you got into teaching, why you wanted to do, and how you achieved the dreams that you've achieved. And not only your dreams, how you've helped so many young people achieve their dreams. So I'm going to let it go, and you go ahead.
Well, RJ, I grew up in Stantonsburg, North Carolina, which is just a little ways down the road, different county, Wilson. I went to Bedingfield High School from 1979 to 1983. I wrestled, played football, did track and field there. Went to ECU, East Carolina University, and got a Bachelor of Science degree in technology, industrial technology education. I went there from 1983 to 1987. In the fall of 1987, I started at Rosewood High School. I was very fortunate to get a call and a job at Rosewood High School. Freddie Carroll, a prominent member of the community, he hired me, and just kind of went with it from there, and was able to be a teacher, which is something I kind of dreamed of. And I'll get in, kind of what that got in just a little bit, but pretty much everything in my closet is purple and gold. I went to East Carolina twice. I did my student teaching at Tarboro High School. The Vikings are purple and gold. And then when I came to Rosewood for 31 years, everything in my closet is purple and gold.
You just can't stay away from purple and gold, can you?
You're exactly right.
Your two favorite colors.
I don't have any regrets for it either. In 2005, I earned my National Board of Professional Teaching Standards certification. So I got my national boards. And then in 2012, I earned my Master's of Education degree in instructional technology and instructional design. So that's kind of my history, so to speak. But I had some very inspirational teachers in Wilson County. I saw the time and effort that they put in, and it just kind of resonated with me. And the coaches and teachers there, the time they put in had a big influence on me to go down a very similar path. I started as an industrial arts teacher. I taught wood shop, and I taught everything from keyboarding to computer engineering to drafting to pre-engineering, architecture, and the Adobe Creative Suite there at the end. I often tell people that I taught everything from wood shop to Photoshop. So that was kind of the way things went. I enjoyed my time in the classroom because I taught elective classes. The kids signed up to be there, so it was a much better situation than some of the high school teachers today deal with. Kids were there because they signed up for it.
I totally agree. And I, as an elective teacher myself, I just love the fact that the kids sign up for it, and when they sign up for it, they look forward to going to that class, which makes it much easier, I think, for us to teach that class because they want to be there.
That is very true. And, not everybody gets that. As far as, not a lot of teachers always they don't understand, how is he so good in your room and not really good in my room? And that's because it's something that they want to do. That's something that they can invest in. And, a lot of times the CTE teachers will just embrace them and let them be creative. And that makes all the difference in the world.
I agree. I totally agree with that.
Yes, sir. But, some of the things I've done with my students, I'm real proud of them. Several of I've had some very successful students who ended up as teachers. Some of them are teachers, some of them are engineers, computer gurus, work at Red Hat, Microsoft. We've had some game designers. I've had a couple of people go down to Full Sail University and be animators straight out of the get-go, right into Pixar. Also had some video and filmmaker people too. I like that I've helped them discover their path pretty much the way my teachers influenced me.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I think a lot of teachers had someone to influence them to go down that path as well. And it takes a special, I think in every job, if you love it, you're called to do it, no matter what it is, if it's something you love. And I don't think that's any different in teaching. And a lot of people have heard my story is that, I wanted to be a teacher, when I was in high school, and I was talked out of it, and I went into business for 24 years and ended up being a teacher. And best decision I ever made was to come back and be a teacher. And it takes a special person to do what you've done, especially for 31 years.
Yes, sir.
So thank you again for your service. Let's get into the coaching.
Okay.
Now, did you, when you first started, was coaching one of those things that are, hey, I want to coach, or were you kind of asked? Because I know when I interviewed, one of the questions was, do you coach? And I was like,
well,
wow, okay.
I had absolutely no intention of coaching when I first got into the school. My athletic director was Branch Pope, another pillar of the community. He was such a good guy. He was, known all over the state. But he had this very special way of recruiting teachers to be coaches. And the way he would do it, he would say, we need a middle school girls softball coach. He said, Bill, have you ever coached girls softball? I said, no, sir. He said, have you ever seen it on TV or live in person? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, then you know enough to coach it. So you're going to be the coach. And that's what happened. That was my very first coaching gig, was middle school girls softball, because Rosewood was grades 7 through 12 at the time I came in. So it was just a consolidated school there.
Right.
But that's kind of the way he approached. Anytime we had a slot open, he would kind of approach it that way. Need a tennis coach. Have you ever watched tennis on TV? During my tenure there, I did middle school girls softball. I did the head coach of middle school football. I was an assistant coach for varsity football because we didn't have JV at that time. And then I was the athletic trainer for 30 years. So I did kind of all that. And then 26 years ago, at my 1992 is when we started wrestling. I founded the program, and we got started with wrestling. It was a new venture. I did wrestle in high school, so I did have a background, but this is kind of how that went too. So we're out on the football field practicing, and Coach Pope sees a truck pull up. So he and I go up to, help direct the driver. They open up the back gates of the truck, and we see wrestling mats in it. And Coach Pope said, well, Bill, there's the wrestling mats. Where's the turnbuckles? I said, Coach, I don't think you got turnbuckles in this kind of wrestling. He said, well, if you know that, then you're going to coach it. So that's seriously how I got the job. I've told that a lot of times, and it's a 100% true story. So the rest is history, I guess.
Well, you made that. I did not know that you started that program at all.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, Terry Pilkington and I started at the same time. Matter of fact, that truckload, I think Southern Wayne had ordered wrestling mats, and the county decided that if Southern Wayne was going to get new mats, all the county high schools were getting them. So Spring Creek got them, we got it.
And you didn't even have a wrestling team. You just had mats.
We didn't even have a wrestling team, so we all got wrestling mats, and that's kind of how it started.
Okay. Well, that's kind of cool that you got the mats before you got the wrestlers.
That's exactly right.
Before you knew you were going to have a team.
We didn't have a home for sure. Because at that time, Rosewood High School was one of the very few schools in the state that did not have a gym on site. We used the Rosewood Middle School gym for all of our basketball and things like that, volleyball, all that.
And they didn't have air conditioning at the time either, did they?
No.
Oh yeah, that was horrible.
That was horrible.
I mean, perfect for wrestling.
Exactly.
But nothing for not for anything else.
That's exactly right.
So you were the coach there for what, 26 years?
26 years when I retired, yes, sir.
And so I mean, that's kind of, I mean, you're known for a lot of things. One being a great teacher, and the other being a great wrestling coach. Amongst many other things. I don't want to take any of all your other accomplishments away by any means. And when I say known, that's how I got to know you, was through wrestling. I think your father and my father know each other.
They do.
They do. That's what I thought. I thought so. You know how I met your dad?
How's that?
Okay. I don't know if he ever told you this, but my dad, she's going to be so mad at me when I say this. My dad had a bi-wing plane that he had built from the ground up.
The Jennings?
And and he crashed it in a swamp. I don't know if you remember him crashing that in a swamp. His legs went straight through the bottom of the plane. He tore him up. And I was working at Target at the time. And one of the employees came up and said, RJ, your dad's in the pharmacy. He looks pretty bad. I'm like, oh, what happened? And so I go over there. My dad's probably, I don't know, 60 at the time, somewhere around there. And I look at him. I said, Dad, what is up? And your father was with him.
Okay.
And he told me what had happened. And not thinking of my dad, but thinking more of me at the time. I'm like, Dad, what were you thinking? I mean, and I'm sitting there yelling at my dad in the middle of Target, just going, I can't believe you did this. And I remember your dad looking at me going, he's your father. Be quiet. And I just kind of looked at your dad like, who are you? And I was sitting there thinking, and every time I'm sitting there thinking, I sure hope your dad never told you that story of me being rude and to my father and stuff. Because I'm thinking, this guy thinks I'm a jerk because of that one incident at Target. But I don't know if he ever told you that or not. And I've never
told me that story. But let me tell you something you may or may not have known. The engine that was in that Jenny was in the Kolb Mark II ultralight plane that I crashed in 2000.
So it had a history.
Really bad engine. It was a Rotax 503, and it was horrible.
Yeah, I remember and I don't know anything about engines, but I remember the name Rotax because my dad always said, don't buy one of those. And if there's someone that works for Rotax out there and you happen to see that, I'm sorry, it's a great engine. It just was.
Yeah, the 903 is a lot better.
Okay.
503 was not great.
So I felt really bad about that. And I was like, oh man. But I think that's funny how you end up meeting people later and you have those connections. So you started wrestling, you were there for 26 years. How did it start out? Because we know how it ended. Or if you don't know how it ended, I'm sure he's going to tell you, but how did it start out?
It started out pretty slow. We got a late start. Like I said, the mats came in pretty much the end of football season. So we didn't really have time to gather the people, and nobody knew anything about wrestling. They were just, we tried to get as many kids as we could, especially the young ones. So we had a 15 match season our very first year. And we actually went 7-7-1.
Well, that's pretty good.
That was the closest I ever came to a losing season. I'm very fortunate for that. But 7-7-1 is about as 500 as you can get on a record. But the first 7 matches, or the first 6 matches, we lost, and it was all about not knowing what we were doing. Right. I wrestled in high school, like I said, but it was a learning experience for all of us. I tried to go over to took the team over to Southern Wayne and wrestled with them a few times just to try to get some techniques and find out how to be disciplined and be, better at what we were doing.
Right.
And then the last half of the year, I had scheduled a home and away on most of those teams, and we came back and beat those same teams on the way back. So, and I think we tied Lejeune our first year. So that was our one tie. They don't tie anymore, but back 1992 they did.
So so that's the closest you ever came to a losing season.
Yes, sir.
That's pretty remarkable. So after that, I mean, and I know as you win, more and more people want to play on that team.
Yeah.
So that had to really help.
Yes. I mean, that's just something I've always believed. And the biggest thing that we had going for us at Rosewood, and the thing that we preached more than anything, was buying into the program. If you can get a young person to see how hard the coaches are working, and then they will put in the same amount of work. They'll give you everything that they've got if you can make them buy into and believe in the program.
Well, I remember you made it look effortless when I was coaching. And when I say coaching, I was coaching by title only, because as well as I do, it was Mark Bass pretty much ran the program, and he had several people to help him. They just needed a coach from the school, and I was the new kid on the block.
Well, you did a great job. I think you brought, discipline. You brought things that really helped CB Aycock High School.
Well, I learned a lot from you, and I came and asked you a lot of things, but I do want to thank you. You were the one who introduced me to the online scoring system, and I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, OPS or
where the
performance system.
And at the tournaments, they would keep the score, and people would do track wrestling or something like that.
Track wrestling.
Track wrestling.
That, yeah. I thought you meant like the weigh-in thing, which is an entirely different animal that.
Oh yeah, that's.
Nobody outside of wrestling understands how much of a pain that is.
But I remember the first tournament we went to, and you had that track wrestling, and I went, "You've got to be kidding me. This is the best thing I've ever seen when it comes to wrestling." And the very next year, I said, "I don't care what we do next year. We're going to do this at our tournaments." I said, "This is just too easy. And it takes a ton of work off of us as coaches." So thank you very much. If I did anything at Aycock, I bought that in. That's, I can say, hey, I did that. And that was because of you. See,
it has evolved, and now every school is required to use it during the season. You're supposed to keep all of your records there. And almost every tournament that you go to now is a track wrestling tournament. And that makes it easy on the parents. If a parent can't go, they can tune in and watch it. Some of them have video feeds, some of them don't. And I just think it was a great, innovation. And, it's kind of like the Huddle football program.
Right.
It's kind of in that same vein. It's how did we make do without it? Because when I first came to Rosewood, we were shooting on 16 millimeter film for football. We had to go to Wilson to this little photography shop and get it developed overnight. And whoever you were going to trade with next Saturday was there, and you just traded films right away. So it's come a long way.
It's so funny to see, because I remember when I was playing football, that's how they did it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Coach Wiz saying, "Yeah, we got to exchange film," and they would drive and meet each other, and then I go and I start coaching football. They have this huddle thing, and they exchange it online. I'm like, "What? We don't drive anymore?" And they were like, "No, that's the way."
Way too.
Yeah, gotta love technology. So as you were wrestling, when did you, I guess, realize? And I know you're a humble guy, so I gotta say, when did you realize you were reaching the elite status?
I will say that it was a very gradual thing, and the biggest benefit that helped with our success is that I surrounded myself with good people. That made all the difference in the world because, in the early days, it was Johnny Davis. Johnny Davis helped me out for several years, and he was so good with all the kids. His 3 boys wrestled for us, and then Hardy Sullivan was with me from day one. I mean, before we even said, "Hey, we're definitely going to do wrestling this year," Hardy found me at a football game, and his dad wrestled, Hardy wrestled, and he was with me the entire time. Hardy is such a good organizer. He's such a good disciplinarian, and just a great friend for those 26 years and still today. So, and then we got Hal Kilpatrick to come on board. Hal is a former teacher at a community college, and he's just a wizard when it comes to statistics and not recruiting, but scouting. He could tell you almost the stats from anybody in the state at any level, 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A. So not only did we have, our paid assistants that helped and did the things and really made the entire program look good, but we were very fortunate to have former wrestlers come back and volunteer. And we had the Air Force guys come in. I mean, they would call and say, "Hey, I wrestled in college. I wrestled in high school. Was this. And they would come in and help. And, for us older guys, we loved that because we didn't have to get on the mat with those guys and get hurt, especially later on.
So when was the first championship, state championship?
2016 for the team.
For the team. So I was coaching at that time, I believe. Yeah. Yes, and I remember wrestling you guys out there. You guys had a great team.
I appreciate that. Nick Quillen was our first individual state champion. We've had a lot of third placers, second placer, runner ups, and then Nick Quillen kind of broke the mold. He was such a good guy. He was 60-0 his junior year, 60-1 his senior year, but he won 2 state championships for us. And I mean, he just really was a unique person, really, really good guy, personally, and a good athlete.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you really hit your stride when I began to coach.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was. Thank you so much.
Right.
And I know we're talking a lot about wrestling, but what was it like? Explain that feeling, because I have coached several sports.
Yes, sir.
And there is nothing like wrestling. I don't care what anybody says, unless you've coached it and been part of it, you do not understand the amount of work and effort and never give up that is in that sport. I mean, it's one-on-one, even though it's a team sport, but they go on the mat and it's extremely tough. And when you say, well, it's only 2 minutes, 30 seconds into it, if you're out of shape, you're done.
That's right.
I mean, I'd be out there going, just pin me, please. Just pin me. I'm done. What was it like to win? I mean, because all that work, all that effort, and to finally see that first state championship. I mean, explain that. I mean, because that's a dream, not only for you, but for everybody in that program. What was that like?
Yeah, so that one was a very special one. But just to kind of preface that, we had finished second in the state in dual team 2 times. And the guys getting there and then pretty much getting demoralized in the finals by, it was somebody that went to 2A. Who was it? Wes Wilkes. And, that getting demoralized there left a bad taste in these guys' mouth. But because of the way we approach things in the room, they didn't let it get them down. They got hungry. They got really, really hungry, and they knew what it was going to take to get to that next level. And when they started the next season, it was all about setting team goals. And we did that every year. About maybe 3 weeks into the season, we had a big whiteboard and we wrote down our team goals. What do we realistically want to accomplish this year? And, we would say how deep we wanted to go into the playoffs. How many individual state qualifiers did we want? How many, placers do we want at the state level? And that increased year after year. And so did our accomplishments. So it's all about confidence. It's all about just changing your mindset to do what it takes to get the job done. And then in 2016, Mitchell was a 2-time state champion. They drove their bus down to Rosewood because it was east-west rotation every year.
Right.
So they drove their bus down here, and on their bus they said three-peat. They had three-peat on both sides of the bus. And, Coach Kilpatrick was with us. He had scouted them out. He said, "It's going to be close, Coach. It's going to be close. I don't know how many bullets we got. It's going to be close." So we came up with a plan. And this, being a wrestling person too, the flip of the coin at the beginning makes a huge difference.
Oh, yes.
And we won the toss in that match. And we also, you start out at a weight class.
Right.
And we started out at 112 pounds, which means that you end up at 106 pounds.
Right.
And at 106 pounds was our freshman, Timothy Decatur Luker. You probably know.
Yeah, I know.
He was quite a wrestler, even as a freshman. So we were at Rosewood. It was packed. I'd never seen that many people at a wrestling match before, individual high school. And the excitement, the noise factor, it was just unreal. And everybody in that gym was purple and gold, or purple and black, because Mitchell's purple and black. We were purple and black on that day. And it was just, it was very heated. It was a great match. And we actually won it with heavyweight with Caleb Taylor. And all Timothy had to do was win by anything, and we guaranteed the match. And the crowd went crazy. The guys went crazy, and it was just unbelievable feeling. I've actually got the match, the entire match, up on YouTube from when it happened, and I just go back and watch it and get chills still. It was unreal.
And you went on to win
Three
more. I thought, yeah. So great. You ended your career the best way you possibly could.
Yes.
Now, in saying all that, and we've talked, like I said, we talked a lot about wrestling, but what we haven't talked about is how much you poured into the teams. And as an opposing coach, watching you in tournaments and stuff, and you never even realized this. I used to just sit and watch you and just sit there and go, this guy, he makes it look so easy. He's never gets upset. He's even keel. The kids absolutely love him. You just had the kids and other coaches just respected you and just watched you in awe. And I'm not trying to build you up in anything for this interview. I'm just letting you know you have affected more people than you ever realized. Opposing coaches, opposing young men, how you coached. And as you know, I asked you a ton of questions when I began coaching. Yes. And I even went over there and watched you guys several times. You dyed your hair blonde.
I did. A couple times.
Yeah, and all that. And what you did was, those kids loved you. It was, they truly loved Coach Edmundson. And not only was it just about winning, It was about not letting you down. And I know you didn't look at it that way, but you know how these teenagers are.
Yes, sir. And look, we spend so much time with those guys. I mean, we would practice almost 3 hours a day. We would be gone every Saturday for a minimum of 12 hours, all these tournaments. So yeah, I was spending more waking hours with those student athletes than their parents were.
Oh yeah.
And, going back to teaching a little bit, I lost more sleep over some students than their parents did. And I mean, that was obvious. It's sad to say. And there's some really bad situations out there. And, we tried to embrace those kids, bring them in,
right,
give them an escape. And, they really appreciated it. They went out, and it is about respect. We gave the kids respect. They respected us. They saw other coaches berating their players, screaming at them, jacking them up against the wall. And I just don't play that way.
Right.
It's got to be, I mean, if a kid's coming off the mat and he's lost, he's not going to want to be yelled at. So, I mean, it's about comforting them. It's about telling them what they did right. They can go back and look at the film and see what they did wrong.
Right.
So you're right in the sense that, we tried to instill in them to learn from their mistakes, to make every non-success a learning experience, and to get better. And, the Decatur, both of the Decaturs say, you might beat me once, but I'm going to learn from that. And you won't beat me again. And that's pretty much how it worked for them.
And now I'm going to leeway because that's perfect for dream big, pray hard, never quit.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's about making the mistakes, because anytime you go after something that's bigger than you, I mean, if you have a dream and you achieve it that quick, it's not much of a dream.
It's true.
You didn't have to work hard for it, but something you have to work hard, and you at some time think about quitting, or, it pushes you beyond the norm. That's a dream big, pray hard, never quit moment. And wrestling has a lot of those, and a lot of other sports do too. So I guess my question would be to you next did you ever, I'm going to put you on the spot, and I normally don't do this. Did you ever think about, what, this is the last year, I can't do this anymore?
Yes, sir, I did. And that was the year I retired.
The year
back in August of that year, 2017, the fall of that year, I decided that I was going to retire that year, but I won't want to tell anybody until like May or so.
Right.
And the reason I did that there were several factors involved, but the main one was that I felt like I had taken the team as far as I could take them. I felt like me doing the same things, was just not in the best interest, but doing the kids right. That they needed some new blood, some different ideas. And, that was one of the biggest motivating factor of retiring from teaching. I could have easily waited through 2 or 3 more years.
Right.
The year that I retired, 2018, we had 5 state placers still on the team for the following years. We had money in the bank in our account. We had assistant coaches in place that were fantastic, that were experienced. And I just wanted to find somebody young to come in and take that program and elevate it to the next level. And like I said, that was one of the motivating factors. Later on in that same season, we had some really bad experiences at the state level and at the state tournament. We just had some really bad situation. You're not supposed to talk about officiating,
right,
association or anything like that. But that helped make up my mind too. As much as I had put into it, as much as these kids had put into it, and to get it taken away from you, it was just unreal. I mean, we lost the state. We had the state tournament, the individual state tournament won, and because of a situation that was not really our fault, it was taken away. They took points off the board from us, and we lost by 3 points, I think. So
Yeah, that would have.
yeah, it was that was, you know, heart-wrenching. But you know, the thing that kind of sealed it for me was the fact that my daughter was pregnant with our first grandchild, and I saw that coming, and it was I love being a granddaddy.
And she's a beautiful little girl. How old is she now? Two?
She is 2 years old today.
Today. Okay. I saw her, what, a week or so ago?
Yeah, we had a little
Beautiful.
birthday party for her last weekend, but today is her actual 2-year-old birthday.
Well, happy birthday. And is she at your house now? I know you
She
have
is
her.
at the house now. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer. I definitely want you to get back to your granddaughter, and the rest of your family, but we know it's probably your granddaughter that means the most right now.
He's got me wrapped, that's for sure.
Exactly. So how does it feel to be a grandfather? I mean, it's got to.
You know, I would have, before the baby was born, I would have never thought that an emotion would hit you like your own child being born. And, you know, I've always heard people say that, oh gosh, you know, if I could have had the grandkids first, I would have done that. You know, you always
Right.
hear people say that. But when the day that she was born, November 16th, 2 years ago, that those same feelings came back. I cried. It was just such an emotional day, and it was it's so hard to describe that feeling, but there's nothing like it. I guess I'm just an emotional person. My daughter means so much to me, and just to have my wife and my daughter and my son-in-law there, and I mean, it was just, I would not have traded that for anything.
Well, that's awesome. That's truly awesome. It seems like retirement has done you well. Every time I see you, you're smiling a lot, talking about your grandchild, and having a good time.
Yes, sir.
And you are such an inspiration. Not only were you, but still are. So many people still look up to you. Like I said earlier, you've been inducted to the National Wrestling High School Hall of Fame, which is absolutely, and I mean, not just North Carolina, but national.
Yes, sir.
And so you have done so many things for so many people. And thank you so much for being here. I always ask this: is there anything else you would like to add?
You know, RJ, I appreciate what you have done with your program. You've come in and talked to our guys. You know, we've never made any shyness about being religious on the mat. You know, we say a prayer, we build each other up. We've had several wrestlers that wanted to get into theology that I would just let them run with it. I would say, yeah, they would say, can I pray for the team? And I would absolutely let them. And, you know, your program and our wrestling program kind of mesh together, and the principles that you teach and go around and talk to people about are exactly what we followed. And, you know, we were able to be successful with it. And, you know, the accolades are great, you know, however many championships, 703 and 196 is what we ended up being, dual team. But, you know, the biggest thing is being able to see these kids be successful in life.
Exactly.
See them contributing to their communities, being good fathers. You know, Dan Gable said, once you've wrestled, everything else is easy. And they can draw back on their wrestling experience and the hours and the sweat and the blood that they put into it, and overcome some of these problems that a lot of people just crumble with. So, you know, we've got a lot of our former guys that are Marines, that are in the Air Force and the Army.
Don't forget Army. My daughter's in the Army. Okay.
Army. So, you know, the Marines have a lot of our recent guys. There's at least 5 of the former guys that's in the Marines right now. But to see those guys succeed and be contributing to the community and just being good fathers, good husbands, that means a whole lot more to me than the championships. You know, you do things the right way, and things are going to go like they're supposed to.
I want to touch on this real quick because you brought up a great point. I want the parents really to listen and understand what you just said. sports is not just about winning and losing. Sports is about building the person and teaching them how to win and lose, because in life, that's what happens.
Yes, sir.
You're going to win and you're going to lose. And being able to handle that, being a good loser and learning from that, and then becoming a better winner, is they need that. And so when I see people are like, well, I don't want them to get hurt, I don't want them to do this, I really feel you're doing a big injustice, because you know what? I'd much rather them get hurt on the football field, softball field, the wrestling mat, than get hurt later in life when it really, really counts.
Exactly.
So I just want to throw that out there to the parents, and you're going to have every coach that you talk to say that, because the coaches get to see what they're like on the field and possibly change their outlook and make them better men and women, like you have
Totally
done.
agree with that. Absolutely.
So thank you so much. You are an awesome man, and we appreciate everything you've done for Wayne County and Rosewood. And thank you for being part of Dream Big, Pray Hard, Never Quit.
Thank you, RJ.